Take 4. I've got to learn how to edit videos. I'm a mess. All right, I had promised I would be back today to discuss what I'm doing as far as my changes in eating and some lifestyle changes. Because I've had some great results, and so people ask about it. I want to preface this by saying this plan that I'm on, they make no promises that this is typical results. In general, they say people experience 1 to 2 pounds per week the first 12 weeks. Most everyone I know, that has not been the case. And so let me just say that before doing this or any other diet, I am not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, and you need to discuss this or anything else you do as far as diet with your doctor. This program in particular, if you use their fuelings, you really need to be able to make sure your doctor's aware, because most people, if they're on blood pressure, diabetes medicines, other medications, they generally have to be adjusted, lowered during the first couple of weeks. So it's really critical that you discuss with your doctor what you're going to do, how you're going to monitor, if you're going to need to go in to him or her to be monitored or what. I check my blood sugar at home and my blood pressure at home. So I did inform my doctor, but I told her that I would be monitoring it all closely and would keep her in the loop. So let me just get that out of the way. My daughter had used this plan for a while and then didn't stick with it. She had a job that was really stressful, and she was an event planner, and it was really hard to do anything without a lot of stress. And so she'd go on and off it. When she was on it, she had great results when she really stuck to the plan. My nephew went on it, and he ended up losing 20 pounds in the first 3 weeks. So he was trying to get my sister to take part in it because she also has diabetes and high blood pressure, and we're just not healthy people. We're real carb eaters. We're raised in the South. We lived off beans and biscuits and corn and taters and nothing but carbs. And so he actually offered to pay for her plan for her so that she would give it a shot. But so we talked about, we're both on Social Security and single, so we don't have money to burn. So we sat down to calculate whether we could afford to do it or not. And so during the month of April, as some of you know, I went to stay with my sister. She had some minor surgery and needed her dressing changed during the days, and so she wasn't able to do it herself. So I stayed with her for about a month while she healed. And during that time, we were like 2 pigs in slop. I'm telling you, we ate and ate and ate and ate. We would get up 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. We'd get in the car, go to Bojangles, get a biscuit and bow rounds, which are like tater tots with onions in them, and a huge cheer wine, huge. And of course, it wasn't diet cheer wine, it was regular cheer wine. So we were doing that every day, and depending on what kind of biscuits we decided on for the day, it could end up costing $6 to $8 a day. And so when we started figuring that up for a month, it's like, okay, that's pretty pricey. And then when we would get home, if we ate really late, we might not eat again until dinner time, but we'd order DoorDash. Now, if we happened to get up early and ate earlier, we would often do lunch and dinner DoorDash. And there are some good restaurants near her house. DoorDash doesn't deliver out here where I live, so it's generally not a problem for me, and I was loving it. So we just sat on our butts and we watched TV and we ate. And forgive me if I've already said this. I can't remember. I'm an old lady. Give me a break. I put on 12 pounds that month. So we started calculating that and how much we were spending on DoorDash, and we realized we could just about pay for the plan of what we were spending with fast food. And Sharon, my sister, had taken the philosophy for a long time that she just didn't cook very much because for just her, she felt it was cheaper, and probably was, depending on what you buy, to go out and grab fast food. So we decided we'd give it a shot. And we have both been thrilled. We've both had really good results. She's had great results. She is down now at a place where she hasn't been on her weight in a long time. I lost 14.8 pounds in a month. And that's not typical. It's more typical that people will see an average of 1 to 2 pounds a week on this plan. But, it just depends. Some people have lost 17 pounds in a week. It just depends. It depends on how much you have to lose, how you normally eat. I mean, my gosh, my body went into shock when all my carbs stopped, and it was just unreal going from where I had been eating to how I eat now. So I'm not surprised I lost the weight, because I was just being a pig. My youngest daughter had commented that, she and her husband would invite me over a lot, or they'd come over here and we'd have plans, and I'd often cancel because I wouldn't feel good. And my sister and I we'd talk during the day, and, I'm going to try to get this done or that done today. And we'd speak later on, and we hadn't done either thing that we talked about because we just said, we're too tired. We're just too tired. And living here in North Carolina, it's hotter than the hinges on the gates of hell during the summertime, and neither of us can handle heat very well. So we can't get out and walk, and even bright and early in the morning and late at night, it's still warm and extremely humid. So exercise hasn't been a good option for us either. But I decided to go on it, so did Sharon. And we thought, okay, we think we can afford to do this. Now, let me tell you, in the beginning, I've had to make some notes because I can't remember. And I thought I'd probably leave something out. But I've tried Weight Watchers. I've tried keto. I've tried Nutrisystem. I've tried intermittent fasting. I tried Lady Fitness, which was a exercise gym for ladies in Washington State. It was a whole chain. And I thought maybe that would be my answer. I could just work it off. And yet I had a hard time with that, because as I gained weight, I would pass gas, something horrible. So I'd be trying to do sit-ups and just, it was humiliating. So I didn't stick with that very long. At least that was the excuse I used. Now, I say all this with consideration of the fact that I was a horribly skinny kid. Part of it was because we poor and didn't have decent food, but we most always had biscuits. And so we just lived off beans, taters and biscuits. And so and then we had to walk everywhere. I mean, my dad half the time didn't have a car, so we had to walk everywhere. And so you just worked it off. But I remember my mom telling me, when you start having children, that will all change. You'll be able to gain weight. In high school, I worked at a soda fountain, and my uncle told me, he said, drink a milkshake every day. That'll help you keep some weight on. And I just couldn't stomach it. So that didn't even help. And not until after I had my first child did I start retaining any of the weight. Actually, when I went to the hospital to have her, I weighed 132 pounds, and she was nearly 8 pounds. So, when I got home from the hospital, I was at 116 pounds and wanted desperately to keep at that weight, and I couldn't. But that soon changed. And then you start getting into the convenience and taking the kids to McDonald's, and and then my husband traveled 75% of the time, so it was the kids and I, and I just didn't pay good attention to nutrition, and I'm ashamed to say that, especially with 3 children. But that's what happened, and so I just got bigger and bigger. And as I went along, and after 30-some years of marriage and being depressed a lot and just frustrated, that's how I dealt with my depression and stuff. I just ate. I've heard people say that women who are molested will often put excessive weight on, trying to build a layer of protection around themselves. And so I often wondered if it was that. But I think I just love to eat carbs, So what I'm going to share with you is what I'm doing with this plan. But some people will find that the costs are prohibitive, and if so, that's fine. I'm still going to tell you what I'm doing, because some of it's just very simple, and you can try and do it on your own if you want, if you feel like you have the willpower to do that. Because of my age, I was put on their senior plan, which is called the 4-2-1 plan. That involves 4 fuelings, which I'll get into in a minute, and then 2 lean and green meals, and then 1 snack. My sister is on the 5-in-1 plan, which is 5 fuelings a day, and then 1 lean and green meal. A key element of this is eating every 2 to 3 hours. And my sister and I have both discovered that we do better and lose more if we will. Of course, we've got both of us, have blood sugar issues, and we both have found that eating every 2 hours works best for us. And so I literally set a timer on my phone to go off every 2 hours. It's from the first bite you take of your meal or your fueling, hit it then, and then 2 hours later you eat again. And the first week or so, it was really hard to do that because I felt like I was eating all the time. And intermittent fasting was easy for me because I was used to skipping meals. But these are small meals. And what they recommend is that you have small meals, but do it every 2 to 3 hours. So if you wanted to do it on your own, you could try 6 meals every 2 to 3 hours. Make sure they're small, and make sure they're low on carbs, but not like on keto where it's all high fat and high protein. Some people, because of health issues, cannot handle the protein, cannot handle all the fat. So it just needs to be a good balance, and that's where you need to talk with your doctor about what might work best for you. But either of those 2 things, if nothing else, try making some changes that way. Do small meals and do it every 2 to 3 hours. And also eating within an hour after you get up. Of course, back when I had no energy, I'd lay in bed till 11 o'clock in the morning. So getting up might mean I'd be eating breakfast at 1 in the afternoon, so that didn't seem to be tough to go without eating for breakfast and lunch because I was just then getting up. But since being on this program, I find I have lots more energy. I get up at 7 to do my first fueling, and sometimes I'll go lay back down, get on YouTube. But then 2 hours later, I'm up, and that's when I do my first lean and green meal. And the lean and green meals are 1 lean protein, and by that it might be, like last night I had salmon and green beans, and I did them in the air fryer. And the salmon, it calls for 5 ounces of salmon. So in a way that doesn't sound like a lot, but for me that's a lot of fish to eat. And so I had that, and then for breakfast, when I'm doing my first lean and green, I'll usually do eggs, and so it would be 3 eggs and a veggie, or you can do vegetarian options where you're doing cottage cheese or whatever. So I alternate those, so I'm not eating eggs every day. But trying to eat 3 veggies and have it be enough to be a serving of veggies was tough in a way, because you're supposed to weigh your food, measure or weigh, and weighing being the most exacting, to try to weigh out enough broccoli. Or like this morning I did broccoli with my eggs, and I steamed a bag of broccoli and opened it up, and I needed 9 point something ounces of broccoli to make up for my 3 green veggies. And that was essentially the whole bag of broccoli. So that's what I ate, along with my eggs. And I was very satisfied, and I do not get hungry. 9 days out of 10, I do not experience any hunger at all, even though I'm eating small amounts. But so the lean and greens, like I said, are 1 protein and then 3 veggies. Then you have, with each meal that you have, that a lean and green meal, you have 2 fats, approved fats, which might be butter or it might be olive oil. And all of these things come on a list so that you have direction, what you can use and what you can't. But if you weigh everything out and stick with it, it works. It works really well. But so essentially, the other thing that I liked was that it doesn't require any exercise with it, because like I've said, and I can't remember if it was on this one or one of the other videos I tried to make today, it is hotter than the hinges on the gates of hell here in the South, and humid to boot. And so getting out and walking even is really, really tough. So starting out with no exercise was very appealing to me and to my sister. So we both went on this plan with purchasing fuelings for the month. And by fuelings, that, depending on what program you're on, that means you're either going to have 4 fuelings a day or 5 fuelings a day. And so you would buy enough that you would have enough fuelings for the month. And so the cost would vary depending on what fuelings and how many fuelings you got. But the fuelings, you can get shakes, bars, soups, entrees like mac and cheese, cereal, brownies, puddings. They have a great assortment, and they're all formulated that they're the perfect combination of protein and carbs and fat to put you into a mild fat burning or ketosis, a slow one. I have actually checked on a ketosis, on a ketones meter, and this has kept me at the low end of, or not the low end, 0 to, I've ended up being 2 to 3 on each of the measurements that I've done, which is supposed to be a nutritional ketosis, which is supposed to be safe according to everything I've read. But again, you'd have to check with your doctor. But it also has probiotics in it, and so it's just a real nice, easy, quick thing, especially like when I just started the last take on this. My timer went off in the middle of it, and I had to stop, and I just ran in and grabbed a bar because that was the quickest thing for me. And so if I know I'm going to the doctor, or I'm going over to my sister's, or going anywhere, if I know I'm going to be gone 2 or 3 hours, I'll take a fueling or a couple of fuelings with me that I can just nosh on wherever. And that has worked really, really well for me. It has helped me just in terms also of not stressing over what I'm eating. I essentially, my groceries, I was spending horrible amounts of money on food because I was buying a lot of junk food. And I don't now. I buy lean meats, fish, chicken, and vegetables. And that's pretty much it. You can have fruit. It's limited, but you can have fruit as your snack if you choose to do that. So there are options, and it all just, for me personally, works out really, really well. I love just knowing I only have to plan for 2 meals a day. And where it's just me, it's much easier also. If you have a family that you're having to prepare meals for, I know this would not be as easy for you, and you'd still have to fix meals for them unless, I know a lot of husbands and wives that are on this plan. But for me, being alone, it works great. And my sister's finding the same thing. It's just very convenient, cuts down on mess in the kitchen, how much cleanup you have. I will eventually probably switch over to the 5-in-1 plan, but they wanted to make sure I was all right being how I'm so old and infirmed. And they just wanted to make sure I was going to do okay on it to start with, which I have. I've been thrilled with it. So that's what it is. It's just something that, for me, the plan works out good. It ends up costing, $350 to $450 a month, just depending on what you order. But it's just shock value when you first hear that, because you think, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. But for me, when I looked at what I've saved on groceries and medications, it has more than paid for itself. So everybody just has to look at their own situation and what they feel is right for them. But you know what, if nothing else, try doing the small meals every 2 to 3 hours, and I think you'd see some big improvement, especially if you have blood sugar issues, because that keeps the blood pressure or blood sugar from spiking. I have been amazed as I've tracked my blood sugar to see that, like I'll check it in the morning when I get up at 7 before I eat, and then I'll check it again 2 hours after I've eaten, and it's actually lower than if I go 3 hours without eating till my next meal. And so that's telling me my body starts spiking insulin when I don't eat. So I just need to keep my body constantly fueled, and for me, it has worked great. So that's all it is. No big miracle, but it's been a miracle for me. They have a life coach a health coach that's available. When your first kit comes, there are 2 books in it that teach about healthy habits to change. And then there's another book that literally is a workbook that you go through, and it just makes you very cognizant of what your thinking is as far as your body and food and weight, and just leading up to some lifestyle changes where exercise will be incorporated, doing all kinds of things. But it's just, and it's a matter of, you have to sit down and work with those books, open them up and read them and fill in the blanks, answer the questions. And I think that's a big part of the journey too. I write down everything that I eat every day. I drink a minimum of 64 ounces of water every day. And those things are just key. My little diary for food, and literally writing down what I eat, not just that, okay, I've done my 4 fuelings and my 2 lean and green. I write down what they each consist of. So I can see if I eat a lean and green of crab meat and whatever, like I had cauliflower rice one day, and I noticed my sugar went up a little bit, and I didn't lose the next day, because the cauliflower is a little bit higher in carbs than some other veggies. So it helps me just look at it and go, okay, I ate this, and here's what happened or what didn't happen. So some of it's just investing in our own health, and trying to track what we're doing. There's so much mindless stuff that we do, whether it's mindless eating or drinking or just whatever. It's just good to become aware of what we're doing and how we're thinking and go at it that way. All right, this is kind of long already, so I will not go into any funny stories today. The funny story is there was an old granny, and she got really big, and she's getting really small, and that's a good thing. Bye-bye for now. Love and hugs till next time.